Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back into a classroom that smelled like chalk dust and floor wax, where the desks had inkwells nobody used anymore, and the blackboard held tomorrow's spelling words in perfect cursive. We're talking about school in 1950s America, a time when education felt slower, stricter, and somehow more connected to the community around it. When teachers knew your parents and your parents knew your teachers, and everybody seemed to be watching, quietly, hopefully, to see what kind of person you might become. Before we go any further, I want to say thank you. Thank you to the person who suggested this topic. You have no idea how much your ideas shape what we create here, and honestly, these suggestions are what keep this channel growing. If you're enjoying this, take a second to like the video, subscribe if you have not already, and drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from. And hey, if you want even more of these deep dives into the past, we are now live on Spotify. The link is in the description. No pressure, just an invitation if you want to take these stories with you wherever you go. Now, dim the lights. Put on a fan if that helps. Get comfortable, really comfortable, because tonight we're settling into a quieter time, a time before backpacks had wheels and homework was turned in on paper apps that never crashed. Have you ever wondered what it actually felt like to walk into a schoolhouse on a Monday morning in 1954? What did the hallways sound like before lockers slammed in that modern way? What did recess smell like when the air was not yet filled with exhaust from idling carpool lanes? How did students learn multiplication before calculators, or write essays before word processors quietly fixed their mistakes? What did lunchtime taste like when the cafeteria ladies knew your name and packed your tray with food that came from the kitchen, not a factory? And what was it like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance every single morning, hand over heart, voice steady, without anyone questioning whether it was optional? Could you survive a school day in 1953? Could you handle the strict dress codes, the wooden rulers, the silence expected during lessons, and the eyes of a teacher who had known your older siblings and would absolutely tell your mother if you misbehaved? Could you sit still for hours without a screen to distract you, without a phone buzzing in your pocket, without anything except your own thoughts and the faint ticking of the classroom clock? And just like that, it is 1955. The morning bell is ringing. Someone is raising the flag outside. The classroom smells like paper and possibility. And the day is just beginning. Let us start with the morning. You wake to the sound of your mother calling from the kitchen, the smell of toast drifting upstairs like a gentle alarm clock. Breakfast is quick, simple, and eaten at the table where your father reads the paper and your younger sibling kicks the chair leg in a rhythm only they understand. Then you grab your books, your lunch in a brown paper bag, and you head out the door. But here is the thing. You are walking. Not being driven, not catching a bus with air conditioning and cushioned seats, just walking block after block, your shoes scuffing the sidewalk, your breath visible in the cold morning air. The streets are full of other children doing the same. Some walk alone, some in pairs, some in small clusters that shift and reform as friends join from side streets. You wave to the kid from 2 houses down. You cross at the corner where the crossing guard stands, white belt gleaming, whistle ready, eyes scanning traffic with the seriousness of someone who takes their job personally. She knows your name. She knows everyone's name. The walk takes 15 minutes, maybe 20 if you stop to look at something interesting. A robin pulling a worm from someone's lawn, a cat sitting on a porch rail, the faint trail of an airplane cutting across the pale morning sky. Nobody rushes you. Nobody tracks your location on an app. You simply walk, and the neighborhood watches, loosely, kindly, the way communities did when everyone knew which child belonged to which family. Your shoes are sturdy, practical, the kind that last. Your socks stay up because garters or good elastic keep them there. If it is raining, you wear a raincoat that smells like rubber, and you carry an umbrella, probably one handed down from an older sibling. If it is winter, your coat is wool, heavy, warm, and slightly itchy against your neck. Your books are strapped together with a leather belt, carried at your side or tucked under your arm. Backpacks exist, but they are not common yet, not the way they will be in a few decades. As you walk, you pass houses with front porches where neighbours sit in the evenings. You pass the corner store where you sometimes stop after school for penny candy. You pass the gas station where your father gets the car serviced and the attendant actually pumps the gas, checks the oil, and wipes the windshield without being asked. Everything feels connected, part of the same fabric, the same rhythm. Other students join you at intersections. You talk about the homework, about the test today, about who got in trouble yesterday. You do not talk on phones because phones are attached to walls at home. You simply talk, face to face, breath clouding in the cold air, voices carrying across the quiet morning. By the time you reach the school grounds, your cheeks are pink from the cold or flushed from the walk. Your hands are chilled, your nose is running slightly, but you feel awake, alert, present. The walk has prepared you. It has given you time to think, time to wake up fully, time to shift from home to school without the jarring speed of a car ride. You see the school ahead now, its windows glowing faintly, its flag already raised. Other students converge from different streets, all walking, all arriving on foot, all part of the same daily pilgrimage. And as you step onto the school grounds, as your shoes touch the concrete path leading to the front doors, you are ready. Not because someone drove you there and dropped you off with a quick goodbye, but because you walked yourself there step by step through the neighbourhood that knows you, under the sky that watched you grow. This is how the day begins, with your own 2 feet carrying you forward. The building stands solid and familiar, brick or wood depending on where you live, with wide front steps and tall windows that let in enough light to read by on sunny days. The schoolhouse is not flashy, not designed to impress, just built to last. It might be 2 stories, maybe 3, with a basement where the boiler rumbles and the janitor keeps his supplies. The roof is pitched, practical, meant to shed snow and rain. The walls are thick, the doors are heavy. Everything about the building suggests permanence, as though it was constructed with the understanding that children would pass through it for generations. You climb the front steps slowly, carefully, because they are worn smooth in the centres from decades of feet. The handrail is cold metal or painted wood, solid under your palm. The front doors are tall, probably twice your height, with brass handles that have been touched so many times they shine even on cloudy days. You pull the door open, it is heavier than it looks, and step inside. The smell hits you immediately. Chalk dust, floor wax, old wood, paper, and something faintly institutional that you cannot name but will remember forever. It is the smell of school, distinct and unmistakable, layered into the walls and the floors and the air itself. You breathe it in, and your body understands this is a place of learning, a place of rules, a place where you are expected to behave. The hallway stretches before you, long and dimly lit, lined with wooden or metal lockers that clang when they close. The floors are polished linoleum or worn hardwood, swept clean every evening by the janitor who arrives before anyone else and leaves long after everyone is gone. The walls are painted in muted colours, pale green or cream or grey, practical shades chosen not for beauty but for durability. Bulletin boards display student work, construction paper projects, spelling bee winners, safety reminders. Everything is orderly, intentional, calm. Classrooms open off the hallway, each one a small world unto itself. You can see inside as you pass, rows of wooden desks bolted to the floor or freestanding but heavy. A teacher's desk at the front, a blackboard stretching across the wall, an American flag in the corner. The windows are tall, the kind that open with a long pole if the room gets too warm. The radiators hiss and clank in winter, filling the room with dry heat that makes your skin feel tight. The ceilings are high, much higher than modern classrooms, which makes the rooms feel larger, more formal, almost cathedral-like in their proportions. The light fixtures hang from long chains, simple glass globes that cast a warm, steady glow. There are no fluorescent lights yet, at least not everywhere, so the light feels softer, less harsh, more forgiving. You walk past the principal's office, its door slightly ajar, and you instinctively straighten your posture. The principal is someone you respect, maybe even fear a little, not because they are cruel, but because they represent authority in a way that feels absolute. If you are sent to the principal's office, your parents will know, your neighbours will know, it is not just a school matter, it is a community matter. Further down the hall is the library, quiet and sacred, filled with rows of wooden shelves and the faint scent of old paper. The librarian sits at her desk, stamping cards, keeping order, making sure every book finds its way home. You love the library, or you will learn to love it, because it is the one place in the building that feels like it belongs to your imagination. At the end of the hall you hear voices, laughter, the shuffle of feet. Other students are arriving, hanging coats on hooks, greeting friends, settling into the rhythm of another school day. The building hums with life now, with energy, with the quiet anticipation of lessons about to begin. And as you find your classroom, as you take your seat, as you smooth your skirt or straighten your shirt collar, you realize that this building is more than walls and floors and windows. It is a place that holds you, shapes you, teaches you not just facts and figures but how to sit still, how to listen, how to be part of something larger than yourself. This is the schoolhouse, solid, steady, unchanging, and for the next 8 hours it is yours. It is 8:30. The bell has rung, not a digital chime but an actual bell, loud and clear and impossible to ignore. You're at your desk now, hands folded, sitting up straight because slouching invites correction. The teacher stands at the front of the room, her posture perfect, her expression calm but watchful. She's young or old or somewhere in between, but regardless of her age she commands respect. Not because she demands it loudly, but because the room itself, the era itself, expects it. The morning begins the same way every single day. No variation, no deviation. Routine is not just comforting, it is the structure that holds everything together. First, attendance. The teacher calls each name from the roll book, her voice steady, clear, each syllable pronounced fully. You respond when your name is called, here or present, your voice loud enough to be heard but not so loud as to seem disrespectful. If someone is absent, the teacher makes a note, and later that absence will be explained. A cold, a dentist appointment, a family emergency. Unexplained absences are rare. Parents send notes. Then, the moment that defines the morning. The teacher nods toward the flag in the corner, and without a word every student stands. Chairs scrape softly against the floor. You turn to face the flag, hand over your heart, and you wait. The room is silent now, completely silent. The kind of silence that feels intentional, respectful, almost sacred. The teacher begins, or sometimes a student chosen for the honour begins, and together, in unison, you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Your voice blends with the others, a chorus of young voices speaking the same words your parents spoke, your grandparents spoke, words that connect you to something larger than this classroom, this town, this moment. You do not question it. You do not opt out. This is simply what you do every morning without exception. The flag represents something: your country, your freedom, the sacrifices made by people you will never meet, and standing here, hand over heart, is your way of honouring that. When the pledge ends, you sit down, quietly, carefully, and the day officially begins. Sometimes there is a morning prayer, brief and non-denominational, thanking God for the day, for the chance to learn, for the safety of the students. Sometimes the teacher reads a Bible verse, short and simple, meant to inspire rather than preach. Nobody objects. Nobody calls a lawyer. This is 1955, and prayer in school is as natural as recess. After the pledge, after the prayer if there is one, the teacher announces the day's schedule. Arithmetic first, then reading, then penmanship. Lunch at noon. Science in the afternoon. Recess if the weather holds. She speaks clearly without rushing, and you listen, because missing instructions means asking later, and asking later suggests you were not paying attention the first time. These rituals, these small repeated acts, matter more than you realise. They create order. They signal that this is a place of respect, of discipline, of shared values. They remind you that you're not just an individual, you're part of a class, part of a school, part of a country. And every morning, standing with your hand over your heart, you're reminded of that connection. It is a kind of grounding that many people today do not experience. The day does not begin with announcements blaring over an intercom or with students scrolling phones under their desks. It begins with stillness, with respect, with a collective acknowledgement that something bigger than yourself deserves your attention. And when you sit back down, when the teacher picks up the chalk and turns to the blackboard, you are ready, focused, present. Because the morning rituals have done their job. They have prepared your mind, settled your body, and reminded you why you are here. This is how every school day starts, with a pledge, a prayer, and a promise to do your best. You cannot wear just anything to school. That much is clear from the moment you wake up and open your closet. There are rules, unwritten but universally understood, about what is appropriate and what is not. And if you somehow miss those rules, your mother will remind you, gently but firmly, before you leave the house. For girls, the dress code is strict and specific. You wear dresses or skirts, always, no exceptions. Pants are not allowed, not even on the coldest days of winter. Your hemline must fall below your knee, modestly, appropriately, because anything shorter invites unwanted attention or worse, a conversation with the principal. Your blouse is tucked in, buttoned properly, sleeves covering your shoulders. If you wear a sweater, it is a cardigan, neat and simple, nothing flashy or tight. Your hair is combed, brushed, pinned back if it is long. Ponytails are common, practical, held in place with ribbons or elastic bands. Some girls wear braids, carefully woven by mothers who rose early to help. Messy hair is not acceptable. Wild hair suggests a lack of care, a lack of respect for yourself and for the people around you. You're expected to look put together, even at 8 years old. Your shoes are sturdy, closed-toed, often saddle shoes or Mary Janes, polished the night before. No sneakers unless it is gym class. No sandals, no flip-flops, nothing casual or flimsy. Your socks are white or match to your outfit, pulled up neatly, no slouching around your ankles. For boys, the expectations are equally firm. You wear slacks, not jeans, unless jeans are specifically allowed on certain days, which is rare. Your shirt has a collar, always, buttoned to a respectable level, tucked into your pants. A belt is required, not optional. Your shoes are leather or polished, laces tied, no scuffs if you can help it. Your hair is short, neatly trimmed, combed with a clean part on one side. Long hair on boys is unthinkable, practically rebellious. The kind of thing that would get you sent home with a note. No hats indoors. That rule is ironclad. You remove your hat the moment you step into the building, and you do not put it back on until you leave. Wearing a hat indoors is disrespectful, a sign of poor upbringing, and teachers will correct you immediately. Jewellery is minimal. Girls might wear small earrings, a simple necklace, nothing dangling or distracting. Boys wear nothing, maybe a watch if they are older, but even that is rare. The idea is not to draw attention to yourself, not to stand out, but to blend into the collective whole of the student body. These rules are not just about appearance, they're about discipline, about teaching you that how you present yourself matters, that showing up neat and clean and respectful is part of being a good student, a good citizen, a good person. Your clothes are a signal to the world, and in 1955 that signal is expected to say, I take this seriously, I respect this institution, I am here to learn, not to rebel. And so you dress the part. You smooth your skirt, you straighten your collar, you check your reflection in the hallway mirror before you leave the house. Not because you are vain, but because you know what is expected. And meeting those expectations is simply what you do. It is a far cry from the world that will come later, the world of jeans and sneakers and casual Fridays and self-expression through clothing. In 1955, self-expression takes a back seat to conformity, and conformity is not seen as oppression, it is seen as respect. So you wear what you are told to wear. You comb your hair the way you are expected to comb it. You polish your shoes and tuck in your shirt and check your hemline. And when you walk into school, you look like every other student, neat, clean, ready. Because that is what it means to belong. Your classroom is a study in order. Everything has a place, and everything stays in its place unless the teacher says otherwise. The moment you walk through the door, you understand that this is her domain, or his, and you are a guest expected to follow the rules. The desks are arranged in straight rows, perfectly aligned, each one facing the front of the room where the teacher's desk sits like a command post. There are no clusters, no groups, no horseshoe arrangements meant to encourage collaboration. You sit in rows because rows minimize distraction and maximize focus. You face forward because forward is where the lesson happens. The desks themselves are heavy, wooden or metal, some bolted to the floor, others freestanding but weighted enough that moving them requires effort. Each desk has a flat writing surface, scarred with the faint carvings of students who came before you, initials, dates, tiny declarations of existence. Beneath the desktop is a shelf or a cubby where you store your books, your pencil box, your lunch if you brought it from home. Some desks have inkwells, small round holes in the corner, a relic from an earlier era when students wrote with fountain pens. You do not use them. They are filled with dried ink or dust, but they remain, a reminder of how things used to be. Your seat is assigned. You do not choose where you sit. The teacher decides, based on height, on behaviour, on some invisible calculus that ensures the troublemakers are separated and the quiet students are not stuck in the back. If you are short, you sit near the front so you can see the board. If you are tall, you sit toward the back so you do not block anyone's view. If you talk too much, you sit alone, away from your friends. A gentle punishment designed to encourage better choices. The teacher's desk dominates the front of the room. It is larger than the students' desks, more substantial, covered with neat stacks of papers, a grade book, a ruler, a bell she rings when she needs attention. Behind her desk is the blackboard, wide and dark green or true black, stretching across the entire wall. She writes on it with chalk, white or occasionally coloured, her handwriting perfect, each letter formed with care. The eraser sits on the chalk tray, dusty and well used, and at the end of the day, a student will be chosen to clap the erasers outside, banging them together until clouds of chalk dust drift into the afternoon air. Above the blackboard, the alphabet marches across the wall in cursive, each letter a model of perfection. You're learning to write in cursive now, practicing loops and curves and connections, and that alphabet is your guide, the standard against which your penmanship will be judged. In the corner of the room stands the American flag, tall and still, fabric slightly faded from years of sunlight streaming through the windows. You face it every morning during the pledge. It is a constant, a presence, a reminder of what you are part of. The windows are tall, reaching nearly to the ceiling, and they let in generous light during the day. On sunny mornings the room glows. On cloudy days the overhead lights are turned on, casting a softer, warmer glow than the fluorescent lights that will come later. The windows can be opened with a long pole if the room gets too warm, and when they are open, you hear sounds from outside, birds, distant traffic, the voices of younger students at recess. But mostly the windows stay closed, keeping the outside world at bay so you can focus on the inside one. The walls are decorated but sparingly. A map of the United States, a map of the world, perhaps a diagram of the solar system. Student work is sometimes pinned to a bulletin board. The best essays, the neatest penmanship, the most accurate arithmetic. There are no motivational posters, no bright colours, no visual chaos. The room is calm, orderly, functional. At the back of the room is a coat rack or a row of hooks where you hang your jacket when you arrive. Beneath the hooks, a shelf holds lunch boxes, each one labelled with a name written in permanent marker or painted on the metal. Everything has a place. Everything is labelled. Nothing is left to chance. And so you sit in your assigned seat, in your assigned row, facing forward, hands folded on your desk, waiting for the lesson to begin. The order of the room calms you, even if you do not realise it. The predictability is comforting. You know where to look, where to sit, what to expect. And in that order, in that predictability, you find the space to learn. Today, you are practicing your letters. Not just any letters, cursive letters, the elegant flowing script that connects one letter to the next in a continuous line. Printing is for babies, for first graders still learning to hold a pencil. By third or fourth grade, you're expected to write in cursive, and by fifth grade, it should be second nature, as automatic as breathing. The teacher distributes practice sheets, thick paper with pale blue lines and a dotted midline to guide your letter height. She writes an example on the blackboard, a lowercase a, loop and curve and tail, her chalk moving smoothly, confidently. She makes it look easy. You know it is not. You pick up your pencil, wooden, yellow, with a pink eraser on the end that smudges more than it erases. Your grip is important. The teacher has shown you how to hold the pencil properly, between your thumb and first two fingers, resting on the side of your hand, not gripped too tightly or held too loosely. She walks the rows, watching, correcting, adjusting fingers and wrists and postures. Good penmanship begins with good form. You place the tip of your pencil on the page and begin. The first stroke is a curve, upward and to the right, then a loop back down, then a small connecting tail. Your hand moves slowly, carefully, your tongue poking out slightly in concentration. The letter looks acceptable, maybe a little wobbly, but recognisable. You move to the next one, and the next. Over and over, filling the row, each letter a tiny attempt at perfection. The classroom is quiet except for the scratch of pencils on paper and the occasional sigh of frustration when someone smudges their work. Penmanship is serious business. It is graded. It appears on your report card. Your teacher will judge you not just on what you write, but on how you write it. Messy handwriting suggests a messy mind, a lack of discipline, a lack of care. The uppercase letters are harder. They require more flourishes, more confidence, more control. You practice your capital G, your capital Q, letters that swoop and curl in ways that feel almost decorative. Some letters connect easily, others do not. You are learning which letters flow naturally into the next, and which require a small lift of the pencil, a brief pause before continuing. Your hand starts to ache. The muscles between your thumb and forefinger cramp slightly, unaccustomed to this level of sustained effort, but you do not stop. The teacher has given you 20 minutes to practice, and you will use every one of them, because good penmanship is not optional. It is expected. When the timer goes off, the teacher collects the practice sheets. She will review them later, marking errors with her red pen, circling letters that slant the wrong way or fail to sit properly on the baseline. Next week, you will do it again and again, until your cursive is smooth, legible, automatic. You do not yet know that cursive will fade, that keyboards will replace pen and paper, that future generations will barely learn to write this way. Right now, in 1955, cursive is essential. It is how adults write letters, sign checks, take notes, communicate. And you are learning to be an adult, one looping letter at a time. It is time for arithmetic, and the teacher writes a problem on the board in clean, precise numbers. 47 times 63. You copy it into your notebook, lining up the digits carefully, tens beneath tens, ones beneath ones. Then you begin. There is no calculator, no device to check your work, no app that shows step-by-step solutions. There is only you, your pencil, your brain, and the method you've been taught. You multiply the ones, carry the extra, multiply the tens, add them together. Your hand moves steadily, deliberately, each number written carefully so you do not confuse a 3 for an 8 later. Beside you, another student counts on their fingers, quietly, discreetly, though the teacher frowns when she sees it. You're supposed to know your times tables by heart now, all of them, up to 12 times 12. You have been drilled on them, recited them aloud, written them over and over until they are burned into your memory. 7 times 8 is 56. 9 times 6 is 54. These are facts, non-negotiable, and you're expected to know them instantly. The teacher walks the rows, glancing at notebooks, checking work, offering quiet corrections. She does not give answers. She gives hints, gentle nudges, reminders to double-check your carrying or to line up your decimals. If you are stuck, she might ask, "What is 6 times 7?" and wait for you to answer before moving on. Arithmetic is not just about getting the right answer. It is about showing your work, proving you understand the process, demonstrating that you can think logically, step by step, without skipping ahead or taking shortcuts. If you write only the final answer, even if it is correct, you might lose points. The journey matters as much as the destination. Story problems are harder. If a train leaves Chicago at 8 in the morning travelling 50 miles per hour, and another train leaves St. Louis at 9 travelling 60 miles per hour, when will they meet? You read the problem slowly, underlining key information, drawing a diagram if it helps. You set up the equation, solve for the unknown, check your work. It is like a puzzle, and some students love it. The challenge, the satisfaction of finding the answer. Others find it frustrating, confusing, a wall they cannot quite climb, but everyone tries, everyone works. Because there is no escape, no calculator to do the thinking for you. Your brain is the only tool you have. The teacher collects the notebooks at the end of the lesson. She will grade them tonight, red pen in hand, marking errors, circling mistakes, writing encouraging notes in the margins. Tomorrow you will get your notebook back, and you will see where you went wrong, and you will learn from it. This is how arithmetic is learned in 1955. Slowly, methodically, repetitively, until the numbers make sense, until the patterns reveal themselves, until your brain can calculate without hesitation. It is hard work, but it teaches you something beyond math. It teaches you persistence, patience, the value of effort, and decades later, you will still remember your times tables, still be able to multiply in your head, still carry that foundation with you. Because some lessons, once learned, never leave. The teacher opens a book, worn and well loved, its cover faded from years of young hands. It is reading time, and today you will take turns reading aloud, one paragraph each, moving row by row across the classroom. The stories about a boy and his dog, or a girl on a farm, or an adventure in the woods. The details do not matter as much as the act itself. You're learning to read fluently, confidently, with expression. Your turn approaches. You can feel it, the nervous flutter in your stomach, the heightened awareness of the words on the page. You practice silently, mouthing the upcoming paragraph, scanning for difficult words, anything with 3 syllables or unusual spelling. You do not want to stumble. You do not want to hear the other students giggle or the teacher gently correct you. The student before you finishes and the teacher nods in your direction. You stand, because that is the rule. You stand when you read aloud. You hold the book in front of you or place it on your desk, and you read clearly, loudly enough for everyone to hear but not shouting. Your voice fills the room. The words come slowly at first, carefully, then gain rhythm. You pay attention to punctuation, pausing at commas, stopping at periods, raising your voice slightly at question marks. The teacher has taught you this, that reading aloud is a performance, a skill, something to be practiced and perfected. If you mispronounce a word, the teacher corrects you immediately, kindly but firmly. Sound it out, she might say, or she might simply pronounce it correctly and ask you to repeat. You do, and then you continue, the interruption brief, the lesson absorbed. When you finish your paragraph, you sit down, relief washing over you. You did it. You read aloud in front of the whole class, and you survived. The next student stands, and the story continues, passed from voice to voice, a communal act of reading. Later, during free time or after lunch, you're allowed to visit the class library. It is not a separate room, just a corner of the classroom with a small bookshelf holding perhaps 30 or 40 books. Some are new, donations from parents or purchased by the school. Others are old, their pages yellowed, their spines cracked, but still readable, still loved. You browse the titles slowly, fingers trailing along the spines. There are adventure stories, animal stories, biographies of famous Americans, books about science and nature and faraway places. You choose one, carefully, because once you start a book, you're expected to finish it. Quitting halfway through is not encouraged. You find a spot to sit, on the floor maybe, or at your desk if it is quiet time, and you open the book. The first page smells like paper and dust and possibility. The words pull you in, one sentence at a time, and soon you are somewhere else, someone else, living a life that exists only on the page. Reading is magic, and in this classroom, in this moment, you are learning to love it. The bell rings, and the classroom erupts in barely contained energy. It is recess, the moment you have been waiting for all morning, the 20 or 30 minutes when you are free, truly free, to run and play and be loud without consequence. You line up at the door, single file, because that is the rule, and the teacher leads you outside. The schoolyard is simple. There is no elaborate playground equipment, no colourful plastic structures with slides and tunnels and bridges. There is a set of swings, metal chains and wooden seats, worn smooth by countless children. There are monkey bars, cold and hard, that leave rust stains on your hands. There is a merry-go-round, a flat metal disc that spins when you push it, faster and faster until someone falls off laughing. And there is a seesaw, long wooden plank balanced on a central pivot, perfect for launching your friend into the air if you jump off at the right moment. But mostly there is space, open space, grass or packed dirt, where you can run, where you can play tag or kickball or Red Rover. The air smells like fresh-cut grass if it is spring, like fallen leaves if it is autumn, like cold and promise if it is winter. The boys cluster together, organising a game, choosing teams, arguing over rules in the way boys do, loud and competitive and ultimately good-natured. The girls gather too, some jumping rope, two friends turning while others take turns jumping in, chanting rhymes that have been passed down for generations. Some girls play hopscotch, chalk squares on the concrete, tossing a stone and hopping on one foot. Others simply talk, sitting on the steps or leaning against the building, sharing secrets and giggles. You join in. Maybe you play tag, racing across the yard, dodging and weaving, lungs burning, heart pounding, feeling wild and free. Maybe you swing, pumping your legs, leaning back, reaching for the sky. Maybe you just run, for no reason at all, because you have been sitting still for hours and your body needs to move. The teacher watches from the sidelines, arms crossed, eyes scanning the yard for trouble. If someone falls, she is there with a kind word and a bandage from the first aid kit. If a fight breaks out, she intervenes quickly, separating the students, asking what happened, doling out consequences with calm authority. Recess is not just free time. It is a lesson in its own way. You're learning to share, to take turns, to resolve conflicts, to include others, to lose gracefully and win humbly. You are learning that your body needs to move, that play is not frivolous but essential, that friendships are built not just in classrooms but on playgrounds, in games, in shared laughter. When the bell ringed again, calling you back inside, you groan, reluctantly, but you line up, sweaty and flushed and happy. And as you file back into the classroom, as you take your seat and catch your breath, you carry that happiness with you, a bright spot in the middle of the school day. It is noon, and your stomach has been growling for the last hour. The teacher dismisses you row by row, and you grab your lunchbox from the shelf or fall into line with the students heading to the cafeteria. Either way, the next 30 minutes belong to food, and nothing has ever sounded better. If you brought lunch from home, it is packed in a metal lunchbox, rectangular and sturdy, decorated with cartoon characters or cowboy scenes, or your favourite TV show. Inside, wrapped in wax paper, is a sandwich, probably peanut butter and jelly or bologna with mustard, made by your mother this morning while you were still getting dressed. There is an apple, maybe some carrot sticks, a small bag of chips if you are lucky, and a thermos filled with milk or juice, kept cool by the metal walls of the lunchbox. You sit at a long table, benches on either side, surrounded by your classmates. Everyone unwraps their lunches, comparing sandwiches, trading items, debating whose mother makes the best cookies. The noise level rises quickly, a happy din of chatter and laughter, the sound of children finally allowed to talk freely after a morning of forced silence. If you're buying lunch, you stand in line, tray in hand, moving slowly toward the serving counter. The cafeteria ladies stand behind the counter, hairnets in place, serving spoons in hand, smiling as they ladle food onto your plate. They know you. They know your name, your older siblings, your parents. They ask how you're doing and they mean it. The food is simple, hot and filling. Salisbury steak with gravy, mashed potatoes, green beans, or spaghetti with meat sauce and a slice of white bread, or chicken and dumplings, creamy and warm. Dessert is a rectangle of cake or a scoop of canned fruit or a small carton of ice cream if it is a special day. The food is not fancy, but it is real, cooked in the school kitchen that morning, served with care. You carry your tray to a table and sit down. The milk comes in small glass bottles, sealed with cardboard caps that you pry off with your thumb. You drink it slowly, savouring the cold, the sweetness, the way it washes down the food. Lunch is more than eating. It is a break, a moment to breathe, to connect with friends, to laugh at something silly, to plan what you will play at afternoon recess. The teachers sit at their own table, eating the same food, talking quietly among themselves, keeping one eye on the room to make sure no one gets too rowdy. When the bell rings, you clean up your area, scraping leftovers into the trash, stacking trays, throwing away wrappers. The cafeteria ladies wave goodbye as you file out, already preparing for the next lunch period. And as you head back to class, your stomach full, your energy renewed, you're ready for the afternoon ahead. The teacher is not your friend. This is understood from the first day of school, an unspoken rule that governs every interaction, every glance, every word exchanged in the classroom. She is kind, yes, patient when you struggle with long division or stumble over a difficult word, but there is a distance between you and her, a professional boundary that no one crosses. She is Miss Johnson or Mrs. Patterson or Mr. Davis, never by her first name, never casual, never familiar. And that distance, that formality, is what gives her power. When she speaks, you listen. Not because you are afraid, though sometimes you are a little, but because listening is what you do. It is what everyone does. The classroom operates on respect, and respect flows upward, from student to teacher, naturally, automatically, without question. If she tells you to open your textbook to page 43, you open it. If she tells you to sit up straight, you straighten your spine. If she tells you that your penmanship needs improvement, you believe her, because she is the authority and her judgment is final. Her desk is her throne. She sits behind it during quiet work time, grading papers with a red pen, the scratch of ink on paper the only sound in the room. Sometimes she stands, walking the rows, hands clasped behind her back, observing your work, offering quiet corrections, a gentle tap on your desk if your attention has wandered. She sees everything. She knows who is daydreaming, who is copying from a neighbour, who forgot to do their homework. Nothing escapes her notice. If you misbehave, the consequences are swift and certain. She does not yell, at least not often. She does not need to. A single look, a raised eyebrow, a quiet word spoken in a tone that suggests disappointment rather than anger. These are enough to make you sit straighter, work harder, behave better. You do not want to disappoint her. You do not want to be the student she has to correct, the one she mentions to your parents during conferences, the one whose name appears on the board under the heading Students Who Need to Try Harder. Some teachers carry rulers, wooden and solid, not just for measuring but for emphasis, a sharp rap on a desk to restore order, or worse, a swat across the palm for serious infractions. Some schools still allow paddling, and though it is not common, the threat of it lingers, a reminder that actions have consequences, that authority is real and must be respected. You've never been paddled, you've been good, obedient, careful, but you know students who have, and you have heard the stories, whispered at recess, exaggerated slightly, but rooted in truth. But most of the time, discipline is quieter. It is extra homework, staying after school to clean the erasers, writing "I will not talk" during class 100 times on the blackboard while everyone else goes to recess. It is the shame of being singled out, of being the one who failed to meet expectations, and that shame, that social pressure, is more effective than any physical punishment. Your teacher also rewards. Gold stars on perfect papers, your name written on the board under good citizens, the privilege of being chosen to run an errand, to take a note to the office, to help clean the blackboard at the end of the day. These small honours matter. They signal approval, recognition, proof that you are doing well, that you are seen. She is strict, but she is fair. She does not play favourites, at least not obviously. She does not mock struggling students or praise the smart ones at the expense of everyone else. She treats you all with a kind of even-handed firmness, expecting the best from each of you, holding you accountable, refusing to accept excuses, and because of that, because she is consistent, because she is fair, because she believes in you even when you do not believe in yourself, you respect her. You might even love her in the way children love authority figures who are both kind and firm, who protect and guide without coddling. Years from now you will remember her, not just her name, but her voice, her handwriting on the blackboard, the way she stood at the front of the room with her hands on her hips when she was waiting for silence. You will remember the lessons she taught, not just arithmetic and spelling, but discipline, respect, the value of hard work. You will remember that she saw you, really saw you, and believed you could do better, and because she believed it, you did. The afternoon brings a different kind of lesson, one that smells like earth and curiosity. It is science class, though it is not called that yet, not formally, not the way it will be in later decades. For now, it is nature study or general science, a time when the textbooks are set aside and the world outside the window becomes the subject. The teacher has set up a nature table near the windows, a long wooden surface covered with treasures collected from the schoolyard, from students' backyards, from weekend hikes and family outings. There are leaves, pressed and labelled, red oak, sugar maple, white birch. There are rocks, smooth and rough, some flecked with mia that glitters in the sunlight. There are pine cones, acorns, seed pods, dried flowers, a bird's nest found abandoned in a tree, a snakeskin shed and left behind, translucent and delicate. You're allowed to touch these things, gently, carefully, to pick them up and examine them, to ask questions. What kind of bird built this nest? Why do leaves change colour in the fall? How do you tell the difference between a rock and a mineral? The teacher answers patiently, sometimes pulling a reference book from the shelf, sometimes admitting she does not know and suggesting you look it up together. Science is not abstract here. It is not diagrams in a textbook or vocabulary words to memorize. It is the world you live in, the world you can see and touch and smell. It is the caterpillar you found on the playground, now living in a jar with holes punched in the lid, munching on leaves, waiting to transform. It is the tadpoles someone brought from the creek, swimming in a glass tank, growing tiny legs, losing their tails, becoming frogs before your eyes. The teacher explains the seasons, the water cycle, the parts of a flower. She draws diagrams on the blackboard, simple and clear, labelling each part, asking you to copy them into your notebooks. You draw the sun, the clouds, the rain, the arrow showing how water evaporates and condenses and falls again. It is a cycle, she says, endless and essential, and you nod, beginning to understand. Sometimes she takes the class outside, a rare and wonderful gift. You walk in a line, 2 by 2, across the schoolyard and into the field beyond, where wildflowers grow and insects buzz, and the air smells like grass and freedom. She points out different plants, different birds, different insects, She teaches you to observe, to notice details, to ask questions. Why does this leaf have jagged edges? Why does that bird have a red breast? What makes that flower smell so sweet? You crouch down, examining an anthill, watching the ants march in orderly lines, carrying crumbs and bits of leaves. You wonder where they're going, what they're building, how they know what to do. The teacher sees you watching and kneels beside you. Ants are workers, she says. They each have a job, and they do it without being told. They are part of a community just like you. It is a lesson in more than science. It is a lesson in cooperation, in purpose, in the idea that every creature, no matter how small, has a role to play. Back in the classroom, you write about what you saw, what you learned, what you wondered. The teacher does not correct your grammar harshly, not today. Today, she's more interested in your thoughts, your observations, your curiosity. Science, she says, begins with questions. And so you ask them. You fill your notebook with questions, some of which she can answer, some of which she cannot, some of which you will carry with you for years, turning them over in your mind, seeking answers. This is science in 1955, not sterile or distant, but alive, immediate, rooted in the world around you. It is wonder made tangible, and it teaches you to look closely, to think carefully, to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Because the world you are learning is full of marvels, you just have to pay attention. Friday afternoons often bring the spelling bee, a ritual both dreaded and anticipated, depending on your skill with words. The teacher announces it after lunch, and a ripple of energy moves through the classroom, excitement and nervousness blending into a low hum of anticipation. You close your textbooks, clear your desks, and stand beside your seats, hands at your sides, waiting. The rules are simple. The teacher calls out a word, you spell it aloud, and if you get it right, you remain standing. If you get it wrong, you sit down, eliminated, watching as the competition continues without you. The last student standing wins, a small prize maybe, a piece of candy or a gold star, but more importantly the recognition, the glory, the knowledge that you are the best speller in the class, at least for this week. The teacher starts with easy words, warm-ups meant to settle everyone's nerves. Cat, dog, book, tree. You spell them quickly, confidently, barely thinking. But the words grow harder with each round, longer, trickier, full of silent letters and unexpected vowel combinations. Necessary, accommodate, rhythm, conscience. You sound them out in your head, breaking them into syllables, picturing the letters, hoping your memory does not fail you. One by one, students sit down. A boy in the front row misspells beginning, forgetting the double N. A girl near the window stumbles over restaurant, putting the U before the A. Each elimination is met with a sympathetic murmur from the class, a shared understanding that spelling is hard, that these words are traps waiting to catch you. You're still standing. Your heart beats faster now, not from fear, but from focus, from the determination not to be the next one out. The teacher looks at you, says your word clearly, distinct. Parallel. You hesitate just for a moment, picturing it in your mind. 2 L's, 2 A's, yes, both. P-A-R-A-L-L-E-L. Parallel. Correct, the teacher says, and you exhale, relief flooding through you. The competition narrows. 5 students, then 3, then 2. You and one other, facing off, spelling increasingly obscure words, words you have studied but barely remember, words that feel like they were invented just to trip you up. Sauerkraut, onomatopoeia, diphthong. Each word is a hurdle, a test, a small battle between your memory and the chaos of English spelling. Finally, your opponent falters. They spell February with only 1 R, and they sit down, disappointed but gracious. The teacher turns to you, and you know this is it. The final word. The one that will determine victory or force another round. She says the word slowly, carefully. You spell it, letter by letter. Your voice steady, clear, confident. You finish, and the classroom holds its breath. Correct, the teacher says, and the room erupts in applause. You have won. It is a small victory, but it matters. It matters because you worked for it, because you studied your spelling words every night, because you earned it. And as you return to your seat, prize in hand, you feel proud, capable, seen. Beyond the spelling bee, vocabulary is a constant presence. New words are introduced each week, written on the blackboard, defined, used in sentences. You copy them into your notebook, practice them, memorize them, prepare for the Friday quiz. The words are not chosen randomly. They are words you will need, words that will help you read better, write better, think better, diligent, meticulous, perseverance, integrity. These are not just words, they are values, virtues, ideas worth understanding. The teacher uses them in conversation, weaving them naturally into her instructions, her stories, her lessons. She does not talk down to you, does not simplify her language just because you are young. She expects you to rise to meet her vocabulary, to stretch your understanding, to grow. And so you do. You learn to love words, to collect them, to use them. You learn that language is not static, not limited, but vast and rich and full of possibility. And every Friday, standing beside your desk, spelling words aloud, you practice not just spelling, but confidence, not just memory, but mastery. Because words you are learning have power, and the more words you know, the more power you have. Once a week, the regular classroom routine is interrupted by something softer, something that feels less like work and more like play, though it is still taken seriously. It is music class, or art class, depending on the day, and while these subjects are not considered as essential as arithmetic or reading, they are still part of your education, still valued, still taught with care. The music teacher arrives with a pitch pipe and a stack of songbooks, worn and dog-eared from years of use. She stands at the front of the room, smiling, energetic, her enthusiasm for music evident in every gesture. She teaches you to sing not just any songs, but folk songs, patriotic songs, songs that have been sung by generations of American children. She'll be coming round the mountain. My country 'tis of thee. This land is your land. You sing together, your voices blending, some on key, some not, but all earnest, all trying. She teaches you about rhythm, clapping patterns, asking you to repeat them, faster and faster until someone messes up and everyone laughs. She teaches you about melody, playing simple tunes on a recorder or a small xylophone, showing you how notes go up and down, how music is patterns, how patterns can be learned. Sometimes she brings instruments, tambourines, triangles, rhythm sticks, small drums. She passes them out, and for a few glorious minutes you are a musician, striking your instrument in time with the music, contributing to the sound, feeling the vibration in your hands, the rhythm in your chest. Music class is not about becoming a professional musician. It is about appreciation, about learning that music exists, that it is beautiful, that it connects people across time and space. It is about learning to carry a tune, to keep a beat, to sing without embarrassment. And it teaches you something else too, that being part of a group, a choir, an ensemble, requires listening, cooperation, blending your voice with others instead of trying to stand out. Art class is different but equally valued. The art teacher, or sometimes your regular teacher wearing a different hat, spreads out supplies on a table at the back of the room. Construction paper in every colour, crayons, scissors, paste, paintbrushes, jars of tempera paint. The smell of paste, thick and oddly sweet fills the room. The sound of scissors cutting paper, the soft scrape of crayon on construction paper, these become the soundtrack of the afternoon. You're given a project, something seasonal usually, something tied to the calendar. In October, you cut out pumpkins and paste them onto black paper, drawing jagged mouths and triangle eyes. In December, you make paper snowflakes, folding and cutting, unfolding to reveal intricate patterns, each one unique. In February, you cut hearts from red and pink paper, decorating them with doilies and glitter, writing messages for your parents. The teacher does not expect perfection. She expects effort, creativity, care. She walks the room, admiring each student's work, offering gentle suggestions, encouraging you to try, to experiment, to express yourself. Some students are naturally gifted, their pumpkins perfectly symmetrical, their snowflakes delicate and precise. Others struggle, their lines crooked, their paste messy, but it does not matter. Everyone participates. Everyone creates. Art, like music, is about appreciation. It is about learning to see beauty, to create beauty, to understand that art is not just something that hangs in museums, but something anyone can do, something worth doing, something that makes life richer. And as you hold up your finished project, your hands sticky with paste, your heart swelling with pride, you learn something important. You learn that you are capable of creating something from nothing, that your hands can shape paper and paint into something meaningful, something beautiful. It is a lesson you will carry with you, long after the construction paper fades and the tempera paint dries. Twice a week, you're excused from the classroom and sent to the gymnasium, a large open space with polished wooden floors that squeak beneath your sneakers and high ceilings that amplify every sound. The gym smells like rubber and sweat and floor wax, a scent you will associate with effort and competition for the rest of your life. You're dressed for this, boys in white t-shirts and dark shorts, girls in one-piece gym suits, modest and practical, that button up the front and cover everything. The gym teacher is different from your classroom teacher, louder, more physical, someone who believes in the value of movement, of strength, of pushing your body to its limits. He blows a whistle, sharp and piercing, and you line up, standing at attention, waiting for instructions. Gym class is structured, disciplined, almost military in its precision. You begin with calisthenics, exercises designed to warm up your muscles, to prepare your body for what comes next. Jumping jacks, toe touches, arm circles, sit-ups. The gym teacher counts, his voice booming, and you move in unison, your body obeying, your breath quickening. Then the real work begins. Some days, you run laps around the gymnasium, your footsteps echoing, your lungs burning, your legs growing heavy. The gym teacher times you, shouting encouragement or admonishment depending on your effort. Faster. Keep going. Do not stop. You push through the discomfort, through the stitch in your side, through the voice in your head that says you cannot because quitting is not an option. Other days you climb ropes thick and rough that hang from the ceiling. You grip the rope, wrap your legs around it and pull yourself upward, hand over hand, using every ounce of strength you possess. Some students make it to the top, ringing the bell that hangs there, a signal of victory. Others make it halfway, arms shaking, hands burning, before sliding back down, defeated but not humiliated, because everyone struggles, everyone tries. There are relay races, dodgeball games, jumping rope, balancing on low beams. There is teamwork, competition, the thrill of winning and the sting of losing. The gym teacher does not coddle you. He expects effort, improvement, grit. If you fall, you get up. If you fail, you try again. Physical education is not just about fitness. It is about resilience, about learning that your body is capable of more than you think, that discomfort is temporary, that effort is its own reward. For the girls, gym class is slightly different, less intense, more focused on grace and coordination. You learn folk dances, moving in circles, holding hands, stepping in time to music. You practice posture, balance, flexibility. The expectations are different, but the underlying message is the same. Your body matters, taking care of it matters, moving it matters. At the end of class, you are dismissed, sweaty and flushed and tired. You file out of the gymnasium, back toward the classroom, your muscles loose, your energy spent. You are not allowed to shower, the facilities do not exist, so you simply change back into your regular clothes, hoping the sweat dries before the next lesson begins. Gym class is exhausting, sometimes embarrassing, occasionally thrilling, but it teaches you something essential. It teaches you that your body is strong, that physical effort is valuable, that pushing yourself is worth it. And years from now, when you think back on school, you will remember the squeak of sneakers on polished wood, the burn in your lungs as you ran, the satisfaction of climbing that rope, the simple joy of moving your body freely, powerfully, without restraint. Not every student is equal in the classroom, at least not in terms of responsibility. Some students are chosen, selected by the teacher based on behaviour, reliability, or simple rotation to serve as monitors, to hold small positions of authority, to help the classroom run smoothly. These jobs are coveted, fought over silently, because they signal trust, because they set you apart, because they make you feel important. The blackboard monitor arrives early, before the bell rings, and cleans the blackboard with a big felt eraser, wiping away yesterday's lessons, preparing a fresh surface for today's work. The chalk dust clings to your hands, to your clothes, but you do not mind. You're doing something useful, something necessary. At the end of the day, you take the erasers outside and clap them together, banging them rhythmically, watching clouds of white dust billow into the air, drifting away on the breeze. The paper monitor distributes worksheets, tests, drawing paper, moving row by row, placing one sheet on each desk, careful not to skip anyone, not to give someone two by accident. It is a simple job, but it requires attention, and you take it seriously, counting sheets, double-checking, making sure everyone has what they need. The line leader walks at the front when the class moves through the hallways, setting the pace, holding the door, making sure everyone stays together. It is a position of visibility, of leadership, and you stand a little straighter when it is your turn, aware that the teacher is watching, that the other students are following. The door holder waits at every threshold, holding the door open as the class files through, patient, polite, not letting the door slam, not rushing ahead. It is a small act of service, but it teaches courtesy, consideration, the idea that helping others is part of being a good citizen. The messenger is perhaps the most enviable job. When the teacher needs to send a note to the office, to another classroom, to the library, she chooses the messenger, hands them a folded piece of paper, and sends them into the hallway alone. You walk quickly but do not run, because running in the halls is forbidden. You deliver the note, wait for a response if needed, and return to the classroom, proud, trusted, having glimpsed a world beyond your classroom walls. The pet monitor, if your classroom has a pet, feeds the class hamster or goldfish, cleans the cage, changes the water. It is a responsibility that extends beyond school hours, a commitment, and only the most reliable students are chosen. You take it seriously because the life of a small creature depends on you, and that matters. These jobs rotate, usually weekly, so everyone gets a chance, everyone learns responsibility, Everyone experiences what it feels like to contribute. But some students are never chosen for certain jobs, the students who talk too much, who forget things, who cannot be trusted to follow through. The teacher does not explain this, does not announce it, but everyone knows. The classroom jobs are rewards, privileges, signals of approval, and so you work for them. You behave, you follow instructions, you prove yourself trustworthy. And when your name is called, when the teacher says you will be the blackboard monitor this week, you swell with pride, knowing you have earned it, knowing you are seen. These small jobs teach you something larger. They teach you that every role matters, that communities function because people contribute, that responsibility is not a burden, but an honor. And they prepare you, quietly, subtly, for the world beyond school, where everyone has a job, where everyone is expected to do their part. Once a month, sometimes more often if there's an outbreak of something contagious, the school nurse visits your classroom. She's a calm, efficient woman in a crisp white uniform, carrying a small black bag filled with medical supplies, a clipboard tucked under her arm. The teacher announces her arrival, and you sit up straighter, suddenly aware of your appearance, your cleanliness, your posture. The nurse begins with a visual inspection, walking the rows, looking at each student carefully, professionally, checking for signs of illness or neglect. She looks at your face, your neck, behind your ears. She checks your hands, palms up, then palms down, examining your fingernails for dirt, for length, for signs of biting. She looks at your hair, parting it gently with a wooden stick, checking for lice, for nits, for anything that might spread from student to student. If she finds something, she does not announce it loudly, does not embarrass you in front of the class. She simply makes a note on her clipboard, a quiet mark beside your name, and later your parents will receive a letter, polite but firm, explaining what was found and what needs to be done. You will be sent home with instructions, with medicated shampoo if necessary, with a reminder that cleanliness is not optional, it is expected. Sometimes the inspections are more thorough. She checks your eyes, asking you to read letters from a chart at the front of the room, covering one eye, then the other, noting who squints, who struggles, who might need glasses. She checks your throat, asking you to open wide. Say, looking for redness, for swelling, for signs of strep throat or tonsillitis. She checks your posture, asking you to stand straight, shoulders back, spine aligned, because good posture is part of good health. And once a year, she weighs and measures every student, recording heights and weights, tracking growth, comparing you to charts that determine whether you're developing normally, whether you're too thin, too heavy, too tall, too short. You stand on the scale, shoes off, holding your breath as though that might make a difference, and she records the number without comment, without judgment, just a fact to be noted, filed away. These inspections are not invasive, not by the standards of the time. They are routine, expected, part of the school's responsibility to ensure that every student is healthy, clean, capable of learning. Your parents expect it too. They trust the school to monitor your well-being, to catch problems early, to send you home if you're too sick to be there. The nurse also teaches brief lessons on hygiene, on health, on taking care of your body. She reminds you to wash your hands before eating, to cover your mouth when you cough, to stay home if you have a fever. She talks about nutrition, about getting enough sleep, about brushing your teeth twice a day. These are not suggestions. They are instructions, rules for living, and you are expected to follow them. If you are sick, truly sick, she has a small room near the office where you can rest, a cot with a thin blanket, a pillow that smells faintly antiseptic. She takes your temperature, gives you water, calls your mother to come pick you up. She is kind but firm, not overly sympathetic, because being sick is not a tragedy. It is simply something that happens, something to be managed calmly, practically, without drama. These health inspections, these lessons in hygiene, teach you that your body is your responsibility, that taking care of it is part of being a good student, a good citizen. They teach you that cleanliness is not vanity, it is respect for yourself and for others. And they teach you that health is not guaranteed, it is maintained carefully, daily, through small choices and good habits. Years from now, you will still remember the school nurse, her white uniform, her calm efficiency, her hands checking behind your ears, and you will remember the lessons she taught, lessons that had nothing to do with textbooks, but everything to do with living well. The bell rings, but it does not sound like the regular bell. This one is different, louder, more insistent, a sharp clanging that cuts through the classroom, through your concentration, through the math problem you are working on. The teacher looks up, calm, unsurprised. "Fire drill," she says, and everyone stands. You've practiced this. You know what to do. You leave everything behind, your books, your pencil, your sweater on the back of your chair. You line up at the door, single file, silent, no talking, no pushing, no running. The teacher leads you into the hallway, and you follow, walking quickly but calmly, hands at your sides, eyes forward. The hallway is full of other classes, all moving in the same direction, all heading toward the exits. You can hear the shuffle of feet, the quiet breathing of dozens of students, the occasional whispered instruction from a teacher. No one panics, no one runs. This is a drill, a practice, a preparation for something that may never happen, but that everyone must be ready for. You exit through the nearest door and file onto the school lawn, moving away from the building far enough that you are safe, close enough that the teacher can see you, count you, make sure no one is missing. The fresh air hits your face, cool and clean, a relief after the stuffiness of the classroom. The sun is bright, and you blink, adjusting, waiting. The teacher counts heads, checking against her attendance sheet, making sure every student is accounted for. She holds up a hand when she's finished, signalling to the principal that her class is safe, that no one is left inside. Other teachers do the same, a silent roll call, a verification that everyone made it out. You stand quietly, waiting for the all-clear signal. Some students whisper, but most remain silent, sensing that this is serious, that fire drills exist for a reason. The teachers stand at the edges of the groups, scanning faces, watching the building, ready to act if something goes wrong. Minutes pass. 5, maybe 10. Finally, the principal gives the signal, and the teachers begin leading students back inside, row by row, class by class, the same orderly process in reverse. You file back into the building, back down the hallway, back into your classroom. You return to your seat, pick up your pencil, and continue the math problem as though nothing happened. But something did happen. You learned. You practiced. You proved that in an emergency you can move quickly, calmly, safely. You proved that the system works, that the school is prepared, that you are prepared. Fire drills are not the only safety protocols you learn. You also practice tornado drills, crouching in the hallway with your hands over your head, protecting yourself from imaginary falling debris. You learn to duck and cover during air raid drills, a remnant of Cold War fears, sliding under your desk, tucking your head, pretending that wood and metal can protect you from something unimaginable. You do not fully understand the reasons, but you follow the instructions, because that is what you do. These drills are somber reminders that the world is not entirely safe, that danger exists, that preparedness matters. They teach you to follow instructions in a crisis, to trust your teachers, to stay calm when everything inside you wants to run. They teach you that panic helps no one, that order saves lives, that practice makes the difference between chaos and survival. And as you return to your lessons, as the day continues as though nothing unusual happened, you carry that knowledge with you. You know what to do if the bell rings differently. You know where to go, how to move, how to stay safe. And that knowledge, quiet and practical, is as important as anything you will learn from a textbook. Every 9 weeks, the teacher distributes report cards, small folded pieces of cardstock with your name printed at the top and a grid of subjects and grades filling the inside. You take it carefully, almost nervously, because this paper holds judgment, evaluation, proof of whether you have met expectations or fallen short. You do not open it immediately. You wait, glancing around, trying to gauge from your classmates' faces whether this is a good day or a bad one. The teacher instructs you to take the report card home, to show your parents, to have them sign it, to bring it back tomorrow. This is not optional. The signature is proof that your parents have seen it, have read it, have acknowledged what the school thinks of your performance. And their reaction, you know, will determine the rest of your week, maybe longer. You walk home slowly, the report card folded in your hand, your stomach tight with anticipation. If your grades are good, this moment is sweet, victorious, a chance to make your parents proud. If your grades are not good, this moment is heavy, the walk home longer than usual, each step bringing you closer to disappointment, to consequences. At home, you hand the report card to your mother or your father or both, and you watch their faces as they unfold it, as their eyes scan the rows of letters. A is excellent, the gold standard, the proof that you are working hard, paying attention, succeeding. B is good, acceptable, nothing to worry about. C is average, which is fine but unremarkable, and depending on your family, might earn a gentle reminder to try harder. D is concerning, a sign that something is wrong, that you're struggling, that help is needed. F is failure, unacceptable, a mark of shame that brings swift consequences. But grades are not the only evaluation. Beneath the letter, grades are comments, short handwritten notes from the teacher. Works well with others. Needs to improve penmanship. Participates actively in class. Talks too much during lessons. These comments matter as much as the grades, sometimes more, because they reveal who you are as a student, as a person, beyond test scores and arithmetic problems. If your report card is strong, your parents smile, praise you, maybe reward you with something small, a trip to the drugstore for ice cream, an extra hour before bedtime, permission to play outside longer. They tell you they are proud, and you feel it. A warm glow in your chest, proof that your effort mattered, that your hard work was seen. If your report card is weak, the reaction is different. Your parents sit you down, ask what happened, why you are struggling, what can be done to improve. They do not yell, at least not most of them, but their disappointment is clear, heavy, harder to bear than anger. They may restrict privileges, take away playtime, assign extra chores, anything to impress upon you that school matters, that education matters, that you're capable of better. And then, twice a year, come the parent-teacher conferences, scheduled evenings when your parents visit the school, sit in the chairs normally occupied by students, and speak directly with your teacher. You're not present for these conversations, but you know they are happening, and the knowledge makes you nervous. Your teacher tells your parents everything. How you behave in class, whether you complete your homework, how you interact with other students, where you excel, where you struggle. She shows them your work, your tests, your penmanship samples. She is honest, professional, neither overly critical nor falsely flattering. She gives your parents a clear picture of who you are as a student, and your parents listen. They take notes, ask questions, discuss strategies for helping you improve. They form a partnership with the teacher, united in the goal of your success. This is not adversarial. This is collaboration, a shared responsibility, a recognition that education happens both at school and at home. After the conference, your parents come home and sit you down. They relay what the teacher said, what needs to improve, what they are proud of. They set expectations, make plans, remind you that they are watching, that they care, that your education is not something you do alone. These report cards, these conferences, these moments of evaluation teach you accountability. They teach you that your actions have consequences, that your effort or lack of it is noticed, recorded, shared. They teach you that school is not separate from home, that your teacher and your parents are on the same team, working together to shape you into someone capable, someone responsible, someone who can succeed. And so you try, you work harder, you pay attention, you bring home better report cards, earn better comments, make your parents proud. Because in 1955, that matters more than almost anything else. The final bell rings and the classroom erupts in motion, controlled but eager. You gather your books, your homework assignments written carefully in a small notebook, your lunchbox now empty except for crumbs. You button your coat if it is cold, grab your hat, make sure you have not forgotten anything. The teacher stands at the door saying goodbye to each student, reminding someone about tomorrow's test, complimenting someone else on their work today. You nod, smile, say goodbye, and step into the hallway. The hallway is chaos now, a river of students flowing toward the exits, voices rising, laughter echoing, the sound of 100 children suddenly free. You navigate through the crowd, dodging younger students, waving to friends, heading toward the door that will release you into the afternoon. Outside, the air feels different than it did this morning. Warmer, softer, touched by the sun that has been climbing all day. The sky is bright, almost blinding after hours indoors, and you blink, adjusting, breathing deeply. The schoolyard is full of children, some waiting for rides, some clustering in groups, some already heading toward the sidewalk, toward home. You begin walking, alone or with a friend, retracing the path you took this morning but in reverse. The world looks different now. The light slants differently, casting long shadows, turning everything golden. The houses you pass are the same, but they feel different, familiar in a way they were not this morning, because now you are heading home, toward safety, toward rest, toward the evening ahead. You walk slowly, unhurried, because there is no need to rush. Homework can wait. Dinner is still an hour away. Right now, this moment, the walk itself, is yours. You kick a stone along the sidewalk, watching it skitter ahead, then catching up to kick it again. You notice things you did not notice this morning. A dog barking behind a fence, a neighbour working in their garden, the smell of someone's dinner already cooking. Other students peel off at side streets, waving goodbye, calling out, "See you tomorrow." The group dwindles, shrinks, until it is just you, or you and one friend, walking the final blocks toward home. You talk about the day, about the test, about the game at recess, about the teacher's reaction to someone's joke. You laugh, easy and light, the tension of the school day dissolving with each step. As you near your house, you see your mother in the yard or through the kitchen window, and you wave. She waves back, smiling, and something inside you settles. You're home. You made it through another day. You learned things, struggled with things, succeeded at things, and now you are home. You climb the front steps, open the door, and step inside. The house smells like home, familiar and comforting, a mixture of whatever your mother is cooking and the scent of the house itself. the scent you cannot name but would recognize anywhere. You drop your books on the table, hang your coat, kick off your shoes. Your mother asks how school was. You answer, good or fine or okay, because that is what you always say, because the details are too many, too tangled, too ordinary to explain. She nods, satisfied, and asks if you have homework. You do. You always do. But right now, she says, you can play for a while, have a snack, relax. Homework can wait until after dinner. And so you do. You step back outside, or you sit on the floor with a toy, or you simply exist quietly, your mind still half in the classroom, half here, transitioning from student to child, from the structure of school to the freedom of home. The walk home is more than a journey from one place to another. It is a transition, a decompression, a return to yourself. It is the bookend to the morning walk, the closing of a loop that began when you left this morning, books in hand, breath visible in the cold air, and tomorrow you will do it again. You will walk to school, sit at your desk, learn your lessons, play at recess, eat your lunch, walk home. The rhythm is predictable, comforting, the steady beat of childhood in 1955. For now, though, you are home, and that is enough. Evening settles over the house, soft and familiar, and you find yourself at the kitchen table, books spread before you, pencil in hand, the day's homework waiting to be done. This is not negotiable. This is not something you can skip or postpone until you feel like it. Homework is expected, required, a continuation of the school day that follows you home and sits with you until it is finished. Your mother moves around the kitchen, preparing dinner, the sounds and smells of cooking filling the air. Onions sizzling in a pan, water boiling for potatoes, the oven door opening and closing. She glances at you occasionally, checking your progress, making sure you're working and not daydreaming, not drawing pictures in the margins of your notebook, not staring out the window at the fading light. The homework itself is straightforward but time-consuming. 20 arithmetic problems, each one requiring careful calculation, showing your work in neat columns. A spelling worksheet where you write each word 3 times, then use it in a sentence. A page of cursive practice, copying a paragraph from your reader in your best handwriting, making sure each letter connects properly to the next, and reading 20 minutes of silent reading from your library book, followed by a short summary of what you read, written in complete sentences. You work steadily, methodically, because there is no other way. The arithmetic takes the longest. You check each answer twice, because if you get it wrong, you will have to do it again tomorrow, and the thought of extra work is enough to make you careful. The spelling is easier, almost meditative, the repetition of letters and words lulling you into a rhythm. The cursive practice is frustrating, your letters never quite as perfect as the example, your hand cramping slightly from the effort. Your younger sibling sits across from you, colouring or playing quietly, occasionally asking questions you try to ignore. Your father reads the newspaper in the living room, the rustle of pages turning a steady background sound. The radio plays softly somewhere, news or music. You're not paying attention. This is the soundtrack of evening, of family, of home. Sometimes you get stuck on a problem, a word you cannot spell, a sentence you cannot pass. Your mother is there, wiping her hands on her apron, leaning over your shoulder, reading the problem aloud, asking questions that guide you toward the answer without simply giving it to you. She is patient, but firm. She will help you understand, but she will not do the work for you. That is not how learning works. If your homework is particularly difficult, if you are struggling more than usual, she might suggest you ask your teacher for help tomorrow. But she does not write a note excusing incomplete work. She does not call the school to complain that the homework is too hard. She expects you to do your best, and if your best is not enough, then you will work harder, try again, figure it out. The homework takes an hour, sometimes more, depending on the night, depending on the assignments. But finally you finish. You close your books, stack them neatly, sharpen your pencils for tomorrow. Your mother checks your work, not every problem, but enough to see that you tried, that you were careful, that you took it seriously. She nods, satisfied, and tells you to wash your hands for dinner. You feel lighter now, unburdened, the obligation met. The evening stretches ahead, shorter than you would like, but yours. After dinner you might play for a little while, listen to the radio, read for pleasure instead of assignment. But for now, you have done what was expected, and in 1955, that is the measure of a good student, a good child. Not brilliance, not perfection, but effort. Doing what you're told, when you're told, without complaint, without shortcuts. The kitchen table holds your work, your effort, your childhood. And tomorrow you will sit here again, books spread before you, pencil in hand, doing it all over again. Because this is what school requires, and this is what you do. Not every student follows the rules. Not every day passes without incident. And when someone steps out of line, when someone talks back or fights on the playground or cheats on a test, the consequences are swift, certain, and public enough that everyone learns the lesson, not just the student being disciplined. The teacher does not raise her voice often, but when she does, the entire classroom freezes. Her tone changes, drops, becomes cold and sharp, and every student feels it. A chill that runs through the room like a draft from an open window. She does not threaten. She does not negotiate. She simply states what will happen, and then it happens. If you talk during a lesson, you might be moved to the front of the room, your desk repositioned so you sit alone facing the class, unable to whisper to your friends. It is not painful, not physically, but the isolation stings. The other students glance at you, and you feel their eyes, their judgment, their relief that it is you and not them. If you forget your homework repeatedly, you stay after school, sitting in the empty classroom while the teacher grades papers, writing out the assignments you neglected, completing them under her watchful eye. There is no discussion, no explanation accepted. You had time. You did not use it. Now you will use this time instead. If you fight on the playground, you're sent to the principal's office, a walk of shame down the long hallway, every teacher and student you pass knowing why you're going, where you are headed. The principal is not cruel, but he is stern, unimpressed by excuses, uninterested in who started it or why. Fighting is not allowed. Period. You sit in his office, small and uncomfortable, while he explains the seriousness of your actions, the disappointment of your teachers, the need to behave better, and then, depending on the severity, you might be paddled. The paddle hangs on the wall behind his desk, wooden and smooth, worn from use but not excessive use because most students never see it up close, never feel it. The threat of it is usually enough, but for those who do, the experience is brief, sharp, memorable. A few swats, enough to hurt, enough to humiliate, enough to ensure you think twice before making the same mistake again. Your parents are called. Always. The school does not discipline in secret, does not keep your misbehavior hidden. Your parents are partners in your education, and they need to know when you have failed to meet expectations. Most parents support the school's decision, thank the principal for his intervention, promise consequences at home as well. Some parents deliver those consequences immediately, as soon as you walk through the door, adding their own disappointment to the school's punishment. But discipline is not always harsh. Sometimes it is gentle, a quiet conversation after class, the teacher asking what is wrong, why you are struggling, whether something at home is making it hard to focus. She does not assume malice. She considers the possibility that you are tired, worried, distracted. And if that is the case, she adjusts, offering help, offering patience, offering a second chance. The key is consistency. The rules do not change based on mood or circumstance. They are the same every day for every student, enforced fairly, predictably. And because of that consistency, most students follow them most of the time. Not out of fear, though fear plays a small role, but out of respect, out of understanding that rules exist for a reason. That order makes learning possible, that everyone benefits when everyone behaves. You see students disciplined, and you learn. You see the consequences, and you adjust your behavior. You do not talk during lessons. You do not fight. You do your homework. Not because you are perfect, not because you never want to misbehave, but because you understand that actions have consequences, that the system is real, that the adults mean what they say. And so the classroom remains orderly. The school day proceeds smoothly, and the lessons, both academic and behavioural, are learned. The school year is punctuated by celebrations, moments when the routine breaks and something special happens, something that brings parents into the building, that puts students on stage, that transforms the school into something more than desks and blackboards and homework. In October, there is a Halloween party, though it is not called Halloween by everyone. Some families call it Harvest Festival, avoiding the darker connotations, focusing instead on autumn, on pumpkins and hayrides and the changing leaves. You wear a costume to school, but it is modest, homemade, nothing scary or inappropriate. You're a cowboy, a princess, a ghost made from an old bedsheet with eye holes cut carefully by your mother. You parade through the hallways, classroom to classroom, showing off your costume, receiving small candies from teachers, laughing with friends. In November, there is a Thanksgiving program, an assembly where each grade performs something, a song or a poem or a short play about the Pilgrims and the Native Americans sharing a meal. You memorize your lines, practice your songs, stand on the stage in front of parents and teachers and the whole school, nervous but proud. The costumes are simple, construction paper headdresses, paper buckles on black hats, but they are enough to transport everyone back to that first Thanksgiving, to remind everyone of gratitude, of harvest, of coming together. December brings the Christmas program, the most elaborate production of the year. The gymnasium is transformed, a stage erected, curtains hung, rows of folding chairs arranged for parents. You rehearse for weeks, learning carols, practicing your part in the nativity scene or the winter pageant. Some students are angels, some are shepherds, some are snowflakes or reindeer or toy soldiers. Everyone has a role. Everyone participates, because this is not just a performance. It is a tradition, a community event, something families look forward to all year. The night of the program, you wear your best clothes, your hair combed neatly, your shoes polished. You stand backstage, peeking through the curtain at the audience filling the gymnasium, searching for your parents, your grandparents, your siblings. The lights dim, the music begins, and you step onto the stage, into the glow of the spotlight, and you sing. Your voice blends with the others, a chorus of children proclaiming joy, peace, the magic of the season. And when it is over, when the applause fills the room, you bow and you feel it. The pride, the accomplishment, the sense that you are part of something larger than yourself. In February, there is a Valentine's Day exchange, a day when every student brings valentines for every other student, small cards with cartoon characters or sweet messages signed with your name. You spend an evening at home filling out cards, writing names carefully, making sure no one is left out. At school, you decorate a shoebox with construction paper and doilies, cutting a slot in the top, and you place it on your desk. Throughout the day, students deliver valentines, slipping them into each other's boxes, and at the end of the day you open your box and count them, reading each message, feeling included, valued, remembered. In May there is a spring program, songs about flowers and sunshine and growing things, a celebration of the end of the school year, of survival, of success. You perform one last time, and then the year is over, summer stretching ahead, long and golden and full of possibility. These celebrations matter. They break the monotony, give you something to look forward to, something to work toward. They bring the community together, remind everyone that school is not just about academics, but about culture, tradition, shared values. And they create memories, moments you will carry with you, moments that define your childhood, your school years, your sense of belonging. Years from now, you will remember standing on that stage, singing those songs, wearing those costumes. You will remember the applause, the pride in your parents' eyes, the feeling of being part of something beautiful, something meaningful. And you will realize that those moments, more than any test or homework assignment, taught you what it means to belong. The final day of the school year feels different from the moment you wake up. The air is warmer, the light brighter, and there is a looseness in your chest, a lightness that has been building for weeks. Today there will be no real lessons, no tests, no homework. Today is a day of endings and beginnings, a day to close the book on one grade and prepare to open another. You walk to school slowly, savouring the journey, knowing this is the last time you'll make this walk as a student of this grade. Next year you will be older, in a different classroom with a different teacher, but today you are still here, still part of this class, this moment. The classroom is different too. The teacher has cleaned out her desk, packed away supplies, taken down bulletin boards. The walls are bare, the shelves empty, the room stripped of the personality it held all year. It feels hollow, transient, a space in transition. But the students are louder, more energetic. The strict rules relax just enough to let the excitement bubble through. The teacher hands out report cards, the final ones, the ones that will determine whether you move on to the next grade or repeat this one. You take yours carefully, already knowing what it will say because you have been paying attention, because you know how you performed. You open it, scan the grades, the comments, and you feel relief or pride or determination to do better next year. Then the teacher calls you up one by one, handing each student a certificate, a small piece of paper declaring that you have completed this grade, that you are promoted to the next. Your name is written in careful script, the teacher's signature at the bottom, official and final. You take it, fold it carefully, tuck it into your bag to show your parents later. There are treats, brought by students, or provided by the teacher, cookies and lemonade, a small celebration of making it through. You eat and talk and laugh, the room buzzing with energy, with relief, with the anticipation of summer. The teacher gives a short speech, standing at the front of the room one last time, telling you how proud she is, how hard you worked, how much you grew this year. She reminds you to read over the summer, to practice your times tables, to come back in the fall ready to learn. Her voice is warm but tinged with something else, maybe nostalgia, maybe sadness, because she is saying goodbye to you, to this class, to this year that she poured herself into. Some students cry, especially the younger ones, because they love their teacher, because they do not want the year to end, because change is hard even when it is good. The teacher hugs them, reassures them, tells them they will do wonderfully next year. The bell rings one last time, but today it sounds different, brighter, full of promise. You gather your things, your books, your report card, your certificate. You say goodbye to your teacher, thanking her because your parents taught you to always thank your teachers. She smiles, wishes you a good summer, tells you she'll see you around. You walk out of the classroom, down the hallway, out the front doors, and into the sunshine. The schoolyard is chaos. Students running, shouting, throwing papers into the air, celebrating freedom. You join them, or you walk quietly, depending on your temperament. But either way, you feel it. The end of something, the beginning of something else. Summer stretches ahead, vast and unstructured. 3 months without school, without homework, without bells and schedules and rules. 3 months to play, to explore, to be a child without the weight of education pressing on your shoulders. You walk home for the last time this year, and the walk feels lighter, faster, easier. You burst through the front door, waving your report card, your certificate, announcing that school is over, that you passed, that summer has begun. Your mother smiles, proud and relieved. She asks about your day, about your teacher, about your plans for summer. But mostly she just looks at you, her child, home for the summer, safe and happy and free. And tonight, at dinner, your father will read your report card, nod with approval or offer gentle reminders, and then he will set it aside. Because tonight is not about school. Tonight's about celebrating the end of one thing and the beginning of another. Tonight, you are just a child, standing on the threshold of summer, with 3 whole months of possibility ahead of you. And that, more than any grade or certificate or teacher's praise, is the greatest gift of all. Looking back now, from the distance of decades, school in 1955 feels almost mythical, like something from a storybook, too orderly, too simple, too wholesome to have been real. But it was real. Every detail, every moment, every lesson, and it shaped an entire generation, taught them not just facts and figures, but values, discipline, respect. The schools were not perfect. They were underfunded in many places, overcrowded in others, segregated in ways that shame us now. Not every child received the same education, the same opportunities, the same chance to succeed. The system favoured some and failed others, often along lines of race and class and geography. That truth cannot be ignored or romanticised away. But for those who experienced it, for those who walked those hallways and sat in those classrooms and learned from those teachers, there was something valuable there, something worth remembering. There was structure, predictability, a sense that education mattered, that it was serious, that it was a shared responsibility between schools and families and communities. The teachers were respected, not just by students, but by parents, by society. They were trusted to discipline, to evaluate, to shape young minds without constant interference or second guessing. They were paid poorly, worked long hours, bought supplies with their own money, but they showed up every day, committed to the work, committed to the students, committed to the idea that education could change lives. The curriculum was rigorous in its own way, not because it was advanced, but because it was thorough. You learned the basics, the foundations, the skills that would carry you through life. Reading, writing, arithmetic, not just as abstract concepts, but as tools, as necessities. You learn to sit still, to focus, to complete tasks, to work hard even when you didn't feel like it. These were not glamorous lessons, but they were essential ones. The community was involved, present, invested. Parents showed up to programs, to conferences, to volunteer. Neighbours watched children walk to school, greeted them by name, called their parents if something seemed wrong. The school was not separate from the community, it was part of it, woven into the fabric of daily life. And the students, well, they were children. They played and laughed and sometimes misbehaved, just like children always have, just like children always will. But they also learned to respect authority, to delay gratification, to work toward goals that were months or years away. They learned that effort mattered, that showing up mattered, that doing your best even when no one was watching mattered. Was it harder in some ways? Yes. The discipline was stricter, the expectations higher, the tolerance for failure lower. There was less room for individuality, for self-expression, for questioning the system. You did what you were told, when you were told, without much room for negotiation. Was it easier in some ways? Also, yes. The distractions were fewer, the pace slower, the pressure different. There were no standardized tests dominating the calendar, no college admissions anxiety starting in middle school, no constant comparison to students across the country or around the world. You competed with the students in your classroom, and that was enough. School in 1955 was a reflection of its time, of its values, of its priorities. It taught you to be a good citizen, a productive member of society, someone who could read and write and calculate and follow instructions. It did not promise to make you extraordinary, just competent, just capable, just enough. And for most students, for most families, that was enough. The school bell rang every morning, and you showed up. You walked through those doors, sat at those desks, learned those lessons, and when the final bell rang, you walked home, carrying with you not just the knowledge from textbooks, but the knowledge of how to be, how to behave, how to exist in a world that expected things from you. That was education in 1955. Imperfect, yes. Flawed, certainly. But also earnest, committed, and built on the belief that every child deserved a chance to learn, to grow, to become someone better than they were the day before. And maybe, just maybe, that belief, more than any specific lesson or method or policy, is what made it work. Once a week, your class walks single file down the hallway to the school library, a room that smells like old paper and possibility, where the air feels heavier somehow, weighted with the presence of thousands of stories waiting to be discovered. The librarian stands at the entrance, a woman with grey hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a cardigan even when the room is warm, her finger pressed to her lips in the universal symbol for silence. You understand immediately. The library is sacred space, a place where voices drop to whispers, where footsteps soften, where even breathing seems quieter. The room is lined with wooden shelves reaching nearly to the ceiling, each one packed with books of varying sizes and colours and ages. Some are new, their spines still crisp, their pages bright white and unblemished. Others are old, their covers faded, their spines cracked from years of being opened and closed by eager hands. The older books are sometimes better, more loved, their pages soft from handling, their stories proven by generations of readers who checked them out, read them, returned them, and told their friends. You are given 20 minutes, maybe 30 if your teacher is feeling generous, to browse and choose a book. This is not a casual decision. You're allowed to check out one book, maybe two if the librarian knows you're a fast reader, and you'll have this book for a week, sometimes two. It needs to be something you actually want to read, something that will hold your interest through chapters and evenings and the distraction of everything else in your life. You wander the aisle slowly, trailing your fingers along the spines, reading titles, pulling books out to examine their covers. The fiction section is organised alphabetically by author, and you have learned where your favourites live. Laura Ingalls, Wilder on one shelf, her Little House books worn soft from countless readings. Beverly Cleary on another, her stories about Ramona and Henry Huggins so familiar you could recite passages by heart. There are mysteries, adventures, animal stories, fairy tales, each one a doorway into another world. The non-fiction section is smaller but equally fascinating. Books about dinosaurs, about space, about American history, about how things work. You pull out a book about the Revolutionary War, flip through it, examining the illustrations, the maps, the timeline that stretches across 2 pages. You are learning that non-fiction can be just as captivating as stories, that the real world is full of mysteries and wonders worth exploring. The librarian circulates quietly, helping students find books, answering questions in hushed tones, gently steering younger children away from books that are too advanced, encouraging older students to try something challenging. She knows every book in this library, knows which ones are popular, which ones sit unread, which ones might be perfect for a struggling reader or a gifted one. She is a guide, a curator, a guardian of stories. When you have chosen your book, you bring it to her desk, a large wooden structure at the front of the room covered with a stack of returned books waiting to be reshelved, a date stamp and a card catalogue with tiny drawers full of index cards. She opens your book to the pocket inside the back cover, pulls out the card and stamps it with the due date, the thunk of the stamp satisfying and official. She writes your name on the card, files it in a box on her desk and hands you the book. It is yours now for the next 2 weeks. Take care of it, she says. No folding pages, no writing in it, no eating while you read. You nod, promising, cradling the book carefully as you return to your classroom. Back in your classroom during quiet reading time, you open your library book and disappear into it. The classroom is silent except for the occasional turn of a page, the soft creak of a chair as someone shifts position. Your teacher reads at her desk, modelling the behaviour she expects, showing you that reading is not just for children, not just for school, but something adults do too, something valuable, something worth protecting time for. You read about a girl living on the prairie, about a boy solving a mystery, about a dog finding its way home across 1,000 miles. You read and the classroom fades, the clock on the wall stops mattering, the world outside the window disappears. There is only the story, the words on the page, the pictures forming in your mind. This is what the library gives you. Not just books, but escape, imagination, knowledge, comfort. It gives you a place where it is okay to be quiet, to be still, to lose yourself in something bigger than your own small life. It teaches you that stories matter, that reading matters, that books are treasures worth caring for and returning so others can experience the same magic. And when you finally finish your book, when you close the back cover and sigh because it is over, you feel both satisfied and sad. Satisfied because you completed something, because you lived inside that story and came out the other side. Sad because it is finished, because you have to say goodbye to those characters, that world. But already you are thinking about your next trip to the library, about what book you will choose, what adventure you will take next. Because once you learn to love reading, once you discover that books are doorways, you never want to stop walking through them. The school nurse occupies a small office near the principal, a room that smells like antiseptic and band-aids, where a cot with a thin pillow and a scratchy blanket waits for students who feel too sick to stay in class. She's a practical woman, efficient and kind, but not overly sympathetic, someone who has seen every childhood ailment, every scraped knee, every stomachache, both real and imagined. She can tell the difference with a single look, a quick assessment that comes from years of experience, and she treats both with appropriate care. You visit her office for various reasons throughout the year. Sometimes it is because you genuinely do not feel well, a headache blooming behind your eyes, a stomach that feels unsettled, a sore throat that makes swallowing difficult. She takes your temperature with a glass thermometer that tastes faintly of alcohol, holds it under your tongue for what feels like forever, then reads it with practiced efficiency. If you have a fever, she calls your mother, and you wait on the cot until someone comes to pick you up, grateful for the dim light, the quiet, the permission to simply rest. Other times, you visit because of an injury, a fall on the playground that left your knee scraped and bleeding, gravel embedded in the wound. She cleans it carefully, dabbing at it with cotton soaked in something that stings but also reassures, because the sting means it is working, means the wound is being cared for. She applies a bandage, a large square of gauze held in place with white tape, and sends you back to class with instructions to keep it clean, to tell your mother to come back tomorrow if it looks red or feels hot. She also conducts regular health checks, inspections that happen without warning, the nurse appearing in your classroom with her clipboard and her calm, assessing gaze. She checks your hands, looking for cleanliness, for bitten nails, for signs of poor hygiene. She checks behind your ears, parting your hair gently to look for lice, a constant concern in schools where children sit close together, share hats, pass head lice from one to another without meaning to. If she finds something, she does not announce it, does not embarrass you in front of your classmates. She simply makes a note, and later your parents receive a letter, discreet but firm, explaining what needs to be done. Once a year, she tests your vision, hanging a chart on the wall, asking you to read the smallest line you can see. You squint at the letters, uncertain whether that is an E or an F, a P or an R, and she marks your answers, noting whether you might need glasses, whether your parents should take you to an eye doctor. Some students leave school that year with new glasses, thick-framed and slightly embarrassing at first, but necessary, transforming, allowing them to see the blackboard clearly for the first time in months. She also teaches standing at the front of your classroom once or twice a year, talking about health, about hygiene, about taking care of your body. She explains why you need to wash your hands before eating, why you should cover your mouth when you cough, why sleep matters, why vegetables are important even when you do not like them. She does not make it fun or entertaining. She simply states facts, clearly and calmly, trusting that you are mature enough to understand, to take responsibility for your own health. For the older students, 5th or 6th grade, she teaches something more delicate, more awkward. She separates the boys from the girls, sending them to different rooms, and she talks about puberty, about the changes their bodies will go through, about what to expect, how to handle it. The boys learn about their bodies from the male gym teacher or the principal, while the girls sit with the nurse, listening as she explains menstruation, development, the biological facts of growing up. It is clinical, matter of fact, not emotional or reassuring, just information delivered plainly because someone needs to tell you, and it might as well be her. Some students are mortified, staring at their desks, faces burning. Others are curious, asking questions in hushed voices. The nurse answers everything calmly, without judgment, without embarrassment. This is biology, she seems to say. This is life. This is normal. And somehow, her calm makes it easier. Her refusal to treat these topics as shameful or frightening gives you permission to accept them, to understand that growing up is natural, that your body is not something to fear but something to care for, to understand, to respect. The school nurse is not a doctor, not a counsellor, not a confidant. She's something simpler and more essential. She's the person who takes care of you when you are hurt, who checks that you are healthy, who teaches you the basics of living in a body. She's practical, professional, present when needed, and invisible when not. And years from now, when you think about school, you will remember her office, the smell of antiseptic, the scratch of the cot's blanket, the cool efficiency of her hands checking your forehead for fever. You will remember that she cared, in her own practical way, that she was there, that she made sure you were okay before sending you back into the world. Once a month, sometimes more often, the normal rhythm of the school day is interrupted by an assembly, a gathering of the entire student body in the gymnasium or the auditorium, rows of folding chairs set up facing a small stage, the air buzzing with anticipation and barely contained energy. You file in by classroom, teachers leading their students, everyone finding their assigned section, sitting down with the kind of restless quiet that comes from hundreds of children trying to behave in a large space. The principal stands at the front waiting for silence, his presence alone enough to settle most of the noise. When the room is quiet enough, when every student is seated and facing forward, he speaks, his voice carrying easily across the space. He welcomes everyone, reminds you of the rules, respect the speaker, no talking, hands to yourself, and then he introduces the reason you are all here. Sometimes the assembly is practical, informational, something the school needs every student to hear at once. A police officer comes to talk about bicycle safety, about wearing helmets, about obeying traffic signals, about being visible to drivers. He brings a bicycle with him, demonstrates proper hand signals for turning, explains why riding on the sidewalk is safer than riding in the street. You listen, mostly, though your attention wanders occasionally, your eyes drifting to the basketball hoops folded up against the wall, to the other students in the rows ahead of you. Other times the assembly is educational, but more entertaining. A firefighter visits dressed in full gear, heavy and impressive, explaining what to do if there is a fire in your home, how to stop, drop and roll if your clothes catch fire, why you should never hide during a fire but should get out and stay out. He lets a few students try on his helmet, heavy and too large for your head, and everyone laughs as the helmet slips down over your eyes. But the message sticks. Fire is serious. Fire is dangerous. You need to know what to do. Sometimes the speaker is a veteran, someone who served in World War II or Korea, standing on the stage in a uniform that still fits or holding photographs of their time in service. They talk about duty, about sacrifice, about what it means to serve your country. Their voices are calm, measured, but there is weight in their words, a seriousness that even the youngest students can feel. You sit quietly, solemnly, because you understand, at least a little, that these people did something important, something worth honouring. Occasionally, the assembly is purely for inspiration. A local musician performs playing the piano or the violin, their skill so far beyond anything you have experienced that you sit in awe, watching their fingers move, hearing the music fill the room. Or an artist visits, drawing on a large easel at the front of the stage, creating a picture right before your eyes, explaining as they work, making art seem accessible, possible, something you might try. Once a year there is a special assembly for patriotic observance, usually around Veterans Day or Memorial Day. The entire school stands, hands over hearts, and recites the Pledge of Allegiance together, hundreds of voices speaking in unison. Then someone, often a teacher or an older student, reads a poem or a passage about freedom, about the cost of liberty, about the men and women who gave their lives so you could sit here, safe, in this school. The tone is reverent, serious, and even the most restless students are still. The assemblies are not always perfect. Sometimes the speaker is boring, droning on too long, losing the attention of the students who begin to fidget, to whisper, to daydream. Sometimes the message is repetitive, something you have heard before, something that does not feel relevant to your life. But even those assemblies serve a purpose. They teach you to sit still, to listen even when you do not want to show respect even when you're not interested. And sometimes, rarely but memorably, an assembly changes something in you. A speaker says something that sticks, that plants a seed, that makes you think differently about the world, about yourself, about what is possible. You leave the gymnasium and return to your classroom, and something has shifted, something small but real. The assemblies are communal experiences, moments when the entire school comes together, not as individual classrooms, but as a single body, a single community. They remind you that you are part of something larger, that the school is not just about you and your classroom and your teacher, but about everyone, all of you, learning and growing and experiencing the world together. And when the assembly ends, when the principal thanks the speaker and dismisses everyone row by row, you file out quietly, orderly, back to your classroom, back to your desk, back to the familiar routine. But the assembly has broken up the day, given you something different, something to think about, something to talk about at recess or on the walk home. These gatherings, these interruptions, these moments when hundreds of students sit together and listen, are part of what makes school feel like a community, like a place where you belong, where you're seen, where you matter. So tonight, as you settle deeper into your blankets, as the day finally releases its hold on you, take a moment to think about the children who walked those sidewalks in 1955, the ones who carried their books with leather straps, who stood for the pledge every morning, who learned cursive until their hands cramped, who played on metal swings that grew hot in the sun. They were not thinking about history. They were just going to school, doing their homework, walking home through neighbourhoods where people knew their names. And think about the teachers who stood at those blackboards, chalk dust on their hands, patience in their voices, believing that every child could learn if someone just took the time to teach them. Think about the parents who checked homework at kitchen tables, who signed report cards, who showed up to programs and conferences because education mattered, because their children mattered. The world was slower then, not perfect, not without its struggles and its failures and its quiet injustices, but slower. There was time to walk to school, time to sit still and learn penmanship, time to read a library book without distraction, time to notice the changing seasons, the smell of chalk dust, the sound of a school bell ringing across an autumn afternoon. Maybe that is what we carry forward. Not the strictness or the conformity or the limitations, but the slowness, the attention, the care, the belief that some things are worth doing carefully, worth learning thoroughly, worth protecting from the noise and speed of modern life. History is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a classroom that smells like floor wax, and a teacher who remembers your name, and a friend who walks beside you on the way home. And that is enough. That has always been enough. So rest now. Let the memories settle. Let the day fade gently into night. And if you dream, may you dream of a schoolyard in September where the bell is ringing and someone is calling your name and the whole day stretches ahead, full of lessons you have not yet learned and friendships you have not yet made. Good night, and thank you for walking back with me to a time when school was simpler, slower, and somehow deeply human.